have these workshops. These workshops are not prescriptive, right? These workshops are suggestive. So they provide you with suggestions. So what you do is you take what could work for you and you throw out what will not work. So it's not, a must for you to read the way Queen reads or to read the way Lefo reads or what they've said in the workshop. We have to do this way. If whatever strategies you're using has been working beautifully, then continue with that. If there's anything you could add or subtract, then do that, right? Remember, these are skills. You being able to transfer skills. That means you should be able to take what works and throw out what doesn't work. So what the SQ4R presents you with different stages that will increase your retention capacity and make you as it's an effective strategy to take out the information necessary from your textbooks. Okay, so reading, it's important that you engage, make notes, underline. This again helps in your understanding process. You may not realize it, but when you start underlining, you start reading out loud to yourself or talking out loud to yourself. All of these really is engaging with your text and you remember even faster. So, Hilda, what I want you to try for me when reading is just try to see if you underline or you take notes for the first reading, if you will still need to read it 3 times before understanding. Perhaps if you underline the first time, make some notes, ask questions, that could perhaps help you to understand the first time or the second time. Just try that, right? And see if it works. Yes, Hilda?
So Quinta, yes, I totally hear what you're saying. So I do not know. So I have not done anything academic in the longest time. So this year is actually, this is me coming back again to try and further my studies. Initially, while I was still in school or in college, I would, easily understand what I'm reading within the first time or the second time. But now, because I took a very long time without, doing anything academic, I think that is why now it's a bit of a struggle because, I tried it so many times with the modules that I'm doing, and each and every single time I start reading, I just don't get anything, not even one point across. So because I've identified that right now, maybe I don't know if it, age contributes to these things, I'm just not sure. Or maybe I am still trying to adjust to being back at school. Maybe in the next semester it will be better. But yeah, that is the challenge I've been having. And the other problem is that sometimes the examination time will not even allow you to read a comprehension 3 times before you fully understand it, so I'm trying to sort of work on that.
Okay. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that, Hilda. And it is indeed, as you've mentioned, it is a big change, right?
Mhm,
Not
mhm.
having been studying for a while, and you need to be patient with yourself. And I mean, it takes work. I think no matter the age, we all struggle sometimes to understand and to read. And yes, when you stop something, coming back could be daunting, could be a little bit more difficult, but with the dedication and hard work that I can see you putting already just by attending the session and participating, I'm sure, you will get there. So just trying to use these strategies, skimming and questions and first read and highlighting and, just remember the only constant thing is change, right? So you want to
Yeah.
try different strategies to see if there will be an improvement in your understanding of text. So thank you for sharing that. All right.
We'll
So
definitely do
after,
that. Thank you.
all right, you're welcome. Now, after you have then done your first readings, what you want to do now is record or respond, sorry. So you want to respond. So the responding stage, this stage is an oral stage. So I want you to not focus on, the writing part in this stage. I want you to focus on the oral stage. So yeah, what you have to do is to respond orally. And I think someone shared that they read out loud. Let me just see. It was Hilda. Yes, so actually that is the next stage. So what you want to do is to respond out loud. Remember, you had questions, and when you were deep reading, each time you found an answer, you wrote that down or you took notes, right? So what you want to do now is to respond to those questions orally, or to revise or repeat the answers to what you found or important notes orally, because again, orally activates the brain in another manner to again increase the retention capacity, right? So look, stand in front of the mirror, recite, record yourself. My niece really loves recording herself. You know, each time she studies, she records herself. And before I came through the SQ4R, I used to find that so weird that you record yourself and then listen to yourself, you know. But then when I found the SQ4R, I was like, okay, I see where she's going. I'm not even sure if she knew what she was doing, but it was quite, you know, interesting to see that she was using a really beautiful strategy to help her to remember information. So you could record yourself, you could call your younger one and bore them to death, you know, by talking to them and just repeating that answer to them, and they're looking at you like, Leifu is crazy, you know, just talking to me like in Chinese. So you could do that. That really is another way again to really just ingrain that information in your brain, again increasing retention capacity. Once you've then responded orally, the next stage is to now go to the written part. That same response, you now want to record that response on paper. We'll see on Monday, there's more ways to take notes. There's more strategies that I'll give you on Monday on how to take notes. The note taking, I have just highlighted 2 methods here of note taking, right? So you can make your summary notes on your paper, or you can make your notes using flashcards. You know, when we were looking at the strategy we did yesterday, we saw the use of flashcards was one of, you know, the strategies when we're looking at multiple choice. So writing the answer on one side and then flipping it. So writing a keyword on one side and then reminding yourself of the information and then flip that to see the answer on the other side. Of online, you know, tools that allows you to do that as well. So writing it down or taking notes in these 2 forms is the next stage. So you need to find a way to record whatever you have read. And again, remember, when exams are approaching, you have so many modules and there's so much to do. Sometimes it might be difficult to reread entire articles, entire textbooks, your full class or lecture notes. You might not have time for that. But if you were taking your notes, notes in itself means summary. It means brief. It means short, concise. So if you were taking notes, it will be easier for you to revise towards exams. And remember, your notes are easy to carry and they're cues, right? So that means if you don't understand, you can go back to the article, but it helps. So you want to then take notes. This is really important in reading because remember, reading academically is not as you read a novel passively. You must engage to ease understanding. So once you've recorded in the best way that suits you, and as I said, we'll discuss more on Monday, then you want to review. So that is the last stage where you now keep going over your notes again and again until you're confident of what you've read. So you've gotten the information, you're sure of what you have, and you're confident, and then you know that, okay, you're now going to go write that exam and you're going to have an A grade or a B grade, or a C grade, whatever makes you happy, right? We always aim for the highest based on our goals, based on what we aim for, because we all have different goals, right? We all have different objectives. So you need to remember yours, your purpose, and what you want, right? And if you can achieve that, then you've achieved success. All right. So these are the stages of the SQ4R. Now let's review these stages, okay? This is where the chat will become a little bit more busy. So can anyone tell me what is the first stage of reading and what it entails? Excellent, Hilda. It is the survey. You skim through heading. No need to go through paragraphs to get the relevance. So what you want to focus on is the headings, the topic. And if you are to skim through paragraphs, if you still don't get it through the heading, the graphs, then you want to look at just the introduction and the body, or if it's a journal article, the abstract only. Why? Because these are summaries of the article. Reading through body paragraphs may take too much time just for you to realize it's not relevant. Excellent, Hilda. Thank you so much. So after you have surveyed, what is the next stage? What do you do next? Excellent. After skimming through the passage, you start reading out loud. Yes, that will come. But before that, you have to question, right? So what you want to do after you've surveyed, remember when you read to look for information. You read for a specific purpose, to get something out of the text, right? So what you want to do first is to question. Take that assignment question. You're looking for an answer. Remember, you read for purpose. So you want to ask specific question. What are the causes of poverty? What is the reason of the rise of technology? What is the importance of technology in education? You know, you want to ask specific questions so that when you're reading, you read with purpose. Actually, reading with purpose is questioning. If you do not have questions, then you will read as if you are reading a novel. So you will read passively. So reading with purpose requires questioning. You have to question. Okay? So once you have questioned, then you can move to starting to read. So you can start to read. So read, the first R is the read. And how do you read now? What is your first reading? How should you do it? Once you've asked questions and you start reading, your first read, how should you do it? Just as Hilda has mentioned, after you've asked questions, when you deep read, it's important to highlight points. Apart from highlighting, what other methods can you use? Apart from highlighting, what other methods can you use when you deep reading? What else can you do? Excellent. Writing notes. Underlining. Now, once you've done that, what is the second R? What do you do? Once you've surveyed its relevance, you've asked those questions you're looking for, you start reading, you take your notes, you highlight important points. What next do you do? The second R, what do you do? So what you want to do is to respond. And responding, no problem. Respond is now to record orally. So the difference with respond and record, those two steps, the only difference is one is orally and one is using your hands. You want to respond orally, and then the next stage, you want to write it down. That is the only difference of your brain retaining information. It's a different way to engage that will increase your retention capacity. Respond and we can record using our flashcard memories. And the last stage is to review and review and review. Okay, so these are our stages to really get out the information that is necessary for our exams, our tests, and our assignments. Okay, so any questions regarding the SQ4R or the reading strategies? Okay, let's have a break. When we resume, we're going to now look at the writing practices. How do we best write for assignments, tests, and exams? Writing practices. So now that we've read, it's also important that we are now able to transfer that information into an assignment. There's instances where students do brilliantly in class, right? So they're able to answer questions, they're able to understand, but now the writing process is a bit more difficult. So writing in general, it starts with preparation. but it needs to end with writing, right? You start, you read, but you need to be able to show your lecturer that I have understood this information, and you will do that through your assignment, through your test, through your exam. As a teacher, it's impossible for me to know that you've understood if I do not ask you. And I can ask you orally in class if you understand, or ask questions after my lecture, or I can test you more broadly to see if you understand through assignments and through tests and exams, right? So you need to be able to get to this stage. So of course, the assignment is a task that is given to you by your lecturer for your studies to see if you are able to, if you have understood that specific topic. Now, before you even start writing your assignment, you need to prepare. So there are different stages that would then be involved in your writing. For the SQ4R, it was the SQ4R, right? It was the survey, the question, the read, the respond, the record, and the review. For your writing your assignment, for your writing practices, the steps involved are to plan, to research, to write, and then to revise. But before we get there, let's, take what we do before we even start the assignment. So once you have a question, once your question is given to you, before you even get to start writing that assignment, you want to double check that you've understood that specific task. That is the first part of writing. You cannot dive straight in without knowing what the question requires, because the majority of marks will always go on content. Did the student answer the question, right? Before we look at the structure, the grammar, the referencing, and so on. So before you even start, you want to unpack that question. And again, we will be doing unpacking questions. Let's see, when are we doing unpacking questions? It's this week, I think. Okay, I think we'll be having that this week. I'm going to double check that a little bit later. Okay, so for now, sorry, I was just going to the calendar, but now I'm coming back. So just give me a moment there quickly. I stepped out of the presentation. Now my computer is freezing to go back. I know you can hear me. I just can't see my presentation. Sorry. Technological challenges happen sometimes. Okay. There we go. All right. So understanding. So before you start your assignment, make sure you understand what you have to do. So read the question slowly and carefully. And while you're reading, ask yourself, what is this question about? What's the topic? What does the question mean? What do I have to do? Then try to rewrite using your own words. This assignment is about 1, 2, 3, 4. I have to 1, 2, 3, 4. This just gives you a clear direction for the question, right? And what is expected of you. So also check for information about the assignment, what is expected through your tutorial later. You can check that with your tutor. You can meet with your tutor and check what is required. You can meet with Queen to check what is required. Look for different channels just to ensure that before you start writing, you've really understood. There's been instances where students have written an assignment and then towards the end, and it's the next day, and they realize, oh, I did not understand this question. I misinterpreted it completely. So it's better safe than sorry, isn't it? So just double check with one person, even with a peer, someone you trust in class that, or 2, 3 people, just to double check, make sure you're really on the right track. You can also book a consultation with me to sit and just say, Queen, I just want to double check if this is how I should go about answering this specific question. So once you have, asked those questions and written this assignment is about and I have to, what you want to do is to start analyzing the question. So look at the question and then identify the instruction words, which are your analyze, describe, discuss. That really tells you what the question is about. And then you want to look at the topic words and limit words. And all of this we're going to be doing tomorrow in more detail as we look at unpacking questions and study strategies that we'll do tomorrow. So this really just introduces us to our topic for tomorrow as well. But we're not doing this today, but it's important, right? We'll see how to go more deeply about doing that. So once you have unpacked your question and you are sure what the question requires you to do, then before you start your research, you need to check your marking guide to see what the marker is looking for. Now, one thing academics is it's not, an adventure in the sense that, you assignments given with students without an end result, without knowing what we want or what we're looking for. So just starting the journey and not knowing what to find. With each assignment, lecturers usually give you a marking rubric, a guide, tutorial letters telling you about the assignment, the instructions, what is needed, how it will be marked. Lecturers will tell you if you want to have from 1 to 5, that means you have written in this way. If you have written in this other way, then you will deserve a 10 to 15 or a 20 to 25. Now, they're telling you exactly what they will be looking for. Students usually don't check. They only get to check most often when the assignment is back and then they realize that, oh, I failed. And then the lecturer says, check your marking guide, and they start seeing that, oh, it was right there. So please always, I know there's a lot going on as students, as brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, you're not just a student, and there's a lot more going on in your life, in your journey, right? And it could be hard, it could be challenging. Keep going, but always doing your best. And part of doing your best is checking those assignments rubrics. Check your tutorial letter. Take the time to read instructions. As I always say, it's like having a GPS. Once you have your GPS, the location is easier than when you don't. So the marking guide is another roadmap to your assignment. So you want to go through it, revise it, check it, and then write your assignment looking at it as a roadmap. Did I do this? Did I double check my grammar? Did I double check this? Did I double check that? You want to do all of that. Okay. Check how much your assignment is worth and what percentage is your final mark before you decide how much time to spend on it as well. Now, the other mistake some students make, right, is to write an assignment. You have, let's say you have 3 modules. You have an elective module, you have a main module, you have different assignments. Now, I was saying you could have 4 modules. You have an elective, you have your main modules, you have different assignments with different mark allocations. So what you don't want to do is to give the wrong priority. The truth is, life in itself is about priority, right? You prioritize what is important. You prioritize what is important and what time frame you have for what activities. So then let's assume you have an assignment and it's what 5% of your final mark. And you spend 2-3 weeks doing that assignment. But then you have an assignment that is worth 80% of your final mark and you assign it only 2 hours. That cannot work. So you need to make sure that you also give the appropriate time, the appropriate percentage based on, the appropriate effort based on the percentage that that specific assignment has. So these are all things to consider. It's all in our writing process. So it's not just about, let me get this done with, right? There's things that you do in preparation of your writing, okay? So that is what we're doing now. Now, looking at your assignment preparation. What do I do in preparation of my assignment? Just making that a little bit bigger. So then also look at how much time you have. Then you can now start thinking about the different steps involved. So you want to then do your research. Sorry, I skipped one. There we go. I'm sure you can see that now. So step 2, after you've prepared, you want to then do your research. Before you start writing, you need to research more about that assignment. So once you're clear about what you know, you need to now start asking the following questions. What is the assignment topic? What information do I already know about this? That is, you look at your notes, you look at your lectures, those summary notes, those cue cards or flashcards, you look at them. What information do I have for this assignment? Sometimes you can realize that it's all drafted out. You have all the information. All you need to do is structure it into an essay. Sometimes for some assignments, you need to read more. You need to provide more references. You need to add more. So figure out first what you know already about the topic, what information you have about the topic, before then looking into what still needs to be done. These questions will help you to respond more appropriately and provide some kind of a brainstorm or mind map for your assignment. Then you want to develop your search strategy. How are you going to look for information that you do not have? Are you going to look for it in your course materials, your tutorial letters, your notebook, your textbooks, your articles, the online library, the physical library, your ebooks, printed books, databases, study groups? How are you going to look for this information? Then start developing your search tips. What words are you going to look for as you look for articles for this assignment? Once you've developed your search tips, you want to then evaluate that article before you use it for your assignments, right? And you will use the CRAP. So we revised this before, but your CRAP simply means checking to see if it's current, if it's relevant, its authority, its accuracy, and its purpose. Current, we always advise students to use books beyond 10 years. And don't get stuck, right? Sometimes you may not find a book beyond 10 years. Some topics, there's not a lot that has been written about it. Above that. Right? But if you can, always go for the most recent articles. If it's an original theory, let's say, for example, you're talking about communism or Marxism, of course, you can use the original theory that was written in way before you were born. So you can use that because it's from the original author. Yes, people would have written again about it, interpreted it, adapted it, contextualized it, but there is no problem with using, the original source. That is never outdated because they came up with that theory. Relevance. How relevant is it to your assignment? Okay, so you want to check how relevant is that information in your assignment. So is it for academic purposes, or is it more general? Is the audience really for students? Who wrote this book? Is it someone that is prominent? Is it a blogger? Who really wrote this book? Is it someone with authority in your field? What is the purpose? Is it to advertise or is it for educational purposes? Usually educational books are there to inform and not persuade. Okay? You need to use your critical thinking now to really question that specific article. And that is where you start answering your question. Did they use authentic data? Is it based on opinions? Were they being subjective or objective? So you need to start asking those questions that will really show that you are trying to analyze what this author said and think about how that information answers your specific assignment question. Once you have all that information, you now need to start planning how you will write your assignment. How will you structure your work? Is this an argumentative essay? Is this a comparative essay? Is this what other essays do we have? Expository? Is it a scientific report? Is this a business report? Now you start thinking about the structure of your assignment. How do you want to structure this assignment? What are the assignment instructions saying? What is the assignment instruction saying about the specific assignment? How do you have to go about it? So those are the questions you need to think about. Then you make a linear map of how you want to go about. What do you want to start with? Will you start with the introduction? Do you want to start with the body paragraph first? And then you start the body paragraph. Some people prefer to start with the body paragraphs and then from the body paragraphs, write the introduction and the conclusion. Okay. Others prefer to start with the introduction to get a sense of what to write and then go to the body paragraph. So the choice is yours, again, based on what works best for you. But it's important that you plan before you start writing. Now, this is the stage that we've all been waiting for, right? We're talking about writing, but then we are seeing that a lot goes on before we get the writing itself, right? So now we want to start first draft. Now, what does a first draft entail? In your first draft, don't focus on a lot on, remember you have your mind map already, you know what needs to go in every section. So then start focusing on the grammar, making sure the references are accurate. By accurate, I mean in terms of consistency with the punctuation. But I always advise students to reference as they go. Don't wait till the end, before you reference. It can be daunting. You could forget some. You could sometimes even forget you have like 5 articles or 9 articles you're reading from. Sometimes you could forget where you took a specific information from. And then you take more time trying to gather where you took that information from. And I don't know if this has happened to any of you where you've got to, at the end, you had to really delete section or a section of your work because you just can't remember anymore where you got the information from. Then you just end up, you like, you know what, rather than to be caught of plagiarism, I rather delete this because I truly don't remember where I got this information from. Okay, so to avoid that, I always advise students to just keep what's the term, citing as the go. So when you write your first draft, free write, do what we call free write. So just put down everything that you know about the topic from your mind map. Just keep writing. Write that first draft till the end. Just keep going, right? When you want to start thinking about everything involved at this stage, you may have what we call the writer's block, right? You may then find it so difficult to, you may then find it so difficult to, you may then find it so difficult to continue because you've been thinking about the structure, the grammar, the references, the content is too much. So what you want to do is, as we will look at in the editing and proofreading, and that workshop is really important because then it tells us how to go about that final draft, So having that good draft, because sometimes students don't give enough time to edit and proofread their work. So they will write and free write and then submit that. So we will go through editing and proofreading just to show you what to do after you have free write. How do you go about editing and proofreading your work? What do you look for? What should you look for? What should you look for first, secondly, and thirdly? There's stages, right? So we'll look through that when we look at the editing and proofreading, which I think will be let's see, when are we having our editing and proofreading? I'm not sure. I think it's on Thursday that we'll be doing the editing and proofreading. But please just check your calendars, all right? I think invites have been sent out. It should be this week. If not, it's next week, all right? So let's continue. So you want to free write. So just get as much as you can on that paper. You can leave the introduction till the last. Others prefer that. You can start with the introduction, right? It's really about finding your own tune, how you really want to word your words. You really don't want to focus on the flow yet, the structure yet. So you just want to put everything on paper. Once you have put everything on paper, Now you can take a break. Now the break is very important. Don't start editing immediately. Take a break, because if you start editing immediately, what could happen is you could find yourself not really being able to identify some of those mistakes because you just wrote it, and everything is still fresh in your mind. So you could easily just do the same things again. So you want to give that in between. This will enable you to take a step back from your work, and you from afresh, looking at it with a bigger picture. So now once you're reviewing, the first thing you want to check is this. So always number one, why? If I'm a marker, I'm your lecturer, the first thing I'll do is, did the student understand the question? Now, if you understood the question, usually your mark, it's a guaranteed pass if you understood the question. Then now we start marking the structure, the grammar, the referencing, and then the marks starts piling up to 100. Once you have misunderstood the question, it starts from 50 below. So your marks start piling up from 50 below. That means you probably fail. You cannot pass with the most beautiful grammar. If you've misinterpreted the question and you wrote the most beautiful English, there's no grammatical mistakes, you have enough referencing that were required, you followed the instructions, but the question was misinterpreted, you will likely not have a 50 on 100, because content always get the most marks, right? So you want to ask yourself, have I understood the question? Check your work against your marking guide. Now, you look at your marking guide before you start it. Now, at this stage, you want to check your work against that. What is required? So you mark yourself basically, right? When you were in school, write those questions, testing yourself, having like actual test paper. I shared in a previous workshop, I used to do that, where I'll, test myself and then answer those questions and mark myself, or get my elder brother to do so. So it's really important for you to then use your marking guide to mark yourself, right? Of course, I know it's easier to give yourself 100, right? Self-love, isn't it? But that will again would ensure that you have followed the instructions, what is required of you. Then is the structure correct? Did they ask for subheadings? Was it a business report? Was it a scientific report? What is the structure of a scientific report? I need an abstract, I need my findings, my methods, I need this and that. The business report, I need an executive summary, after which I need an introduction. In the executive summary, I need to present the method, the aims, the findings, recommendations. In the introduction, I need this and that. So what is the structure of an essay? In the introduction, I need 3 different or 4 components. Have I included that? In the body paragraph, I need topic sentences, supporting sentences, evidence, concluding sentences. Did I do that? So you want to look through the structure. Have you included all the relevant parts? Does the assignment read well? So is there that cohesion that we spoke about yesterday within your paragraphs? Be it no matter the type of work, scientific, business report, essay, do you have that flow between paragraphs? Have you used your own words to acknowledge all sources? Remember, student's voice. Do you have a student voice? Is your assignment well presented? So the review stage is really about checking all those details. Your academic language, is it formal? Checking your grammar, punctuation, spelling. Checking the referencing. You were asked to use the APA, the Chicago, the Harvard, the MLA. Are your pages numbered? Did you use the right font sizes? You start checking, the formatting aspects of your assignment. Did you include your title page? Is your name written, your student number? Then if you're happy, of course, now you can submit your assignment. So we've looked at, how to write, how to prepare, for your exams, the different stages involved from the preparation of that assignment to the actual writing of that assignment. So now let's look at exams. We said we'll look at the writing practices for assignments, for tests, as well as for exams. So we've just had a look at the assignment. So let's now dive into exam. So what is an exam? An examination, or full form of exam, is a formal test that you take to show your knowledge or ability in a particular subject, usually to obtain a qualification. We all know it's that final push, right? So there's things you need to do in preparation for your exam, okay? And we're going to look at some of these as well tomorrow. So a lot of what we do tomorrow, there's some kind of link with understanding or unpacking questions and study strategies. Okay. But let's just keep going. All right, so sleep. We all need to sleep, and most often, our eyes close, and sometimes we want to use a toothpick to really keep them open. We want to use a tape to tape them up and down because we haven't read enough, and as the assignment or the test or exam is tomorrow. So we want to keep that sleep as far as possible, by taking Red Bull, Monster, coffee. We want to stay awake, right? But we need that sleep. Your body needs it. Self-care, as I always talk about. Now, your brain is the engine that will write that exam, because all the information that you have read and gone through all those stages of preparation, SQ4R, the writing, to really be able to remember, all of that is stored in your brain. I recently found out that usually you are actually declared dead if your brain is dead, not the heart, right? The brain. Why? Because everything happens in the brain. Really, your heart can be beating, but if your brain is damaged, really, I think you are what we call in a vegetable state. So you can't do much, right? So then our brain is really important. It's almost like running a computer for 24 hours without switching it off. If you touch it, you feel the way it's hot, right? And you could destroy it. So everything needs rest. Mostly your body, your brain needs rest. And that rest, it reboots your brain, and it even increases the retention capacity. So when you sleep, you are maximizing and optimizing your brain, maximizing your retention capacity. So usually it is advised to sleep for at least 6 to 8 hours in a day. Now, 8 hours is a standard. Your body needs 8 hours, but 6 could work, especially towards 6 hours could work. And now I'm talking for those who can really not make it 8, because if you could make 8 hours of sleep, then everything will function even better, right? So you want to sleep as much as you can. And not only for our exams, but even in the long run, science have shown that those who sleep more have less health problems as they grow older. When the stress starts kicking in and here and there, the more sleep you have had, the better your body will function. So sleep is important. You don't want to take that away. And if you're not able to sleep, if there's something you stress about emotionally or financially, please always refer to the counseling services at UNISA to get that extra support, because you need that sleep, okay? You could make 6 hours while studying for the exam, but truly, and please take this down, a day before the exam, make sure it's 8 hours or even more, right? Day before the exam, you want to maximize that rest. The next thing in preparation for your exam is to organize your study space. So you want to make sure that you have a study space. Like Hilda and others have shared, they prefer a quiet space. So how will you achieve that? For example, let's say you're at home with your younger ones, with your brothers, or sisters, or you're sharing an accommodation with your friends. How do you achieve that space? How can you organize that reading space, and how will you organize that? So think about that. organizing your study space. And another space of studying is the groups, right? When we do time management, critical skills, and group work or teamwork, we're going to look at the importance of study groups. Okay, so you want to check, look into your study groups. Is it something that would work, and how can I make it effective? So look out for that workshop to see how you can make it effective. I think it's on Thursday this week. Critical thinking, teamwork, and time management, how to manage your work. Doing that on Thursday. Okay? Then you want to try to explain concepts to others. This is another way to prepare for exam. So what you want to do is practice that. Before the actual exam, you want to practice explaining to others. So again, boy, your younger one, study groups are most effective for this. You want to explain to your peers, explain to your friends, explain to yourself in front of the mirror, record yourself and explain and double check if you have explained it correctly. Practice on past exam papers. Just like with the SQ4R, exams in general requires a lot of practice, and looking at past exam papers, it's not really about I want to cram what was written the previous year, cram everything. Let me get the questions, and if it comes, then I'll just put everything on paper. It's not really about that. It's about getting a sense of your understanding of the various topics. Then what is also important in preparation for your exams is to take regular breaks. And get it. I don't mean 90 hours in the gym, right? Exercise is really just keeping your body active. And house chores would be enough. Just waking up, cleaning your room or your home, doing your dishes, washing clothes, or taking a walk in the morning or to the park, just being active again. Remember, you're taking care of your brain. So exercise helps the brain to be active and to retain more memory. Okay? And while you're studying, it's also important to take regular breaks. So some people can read for up to 6 hours. Others can read for 2 hours. Others is 1 hour. After that, they just glancing through, but nothing is really getting in. So you know yourself and you know how long you can take. But however long you take, it's advisable to take breaks in between. Short breaks, doesn't have to be long. You could take a music break, listen to your favorite song, and then go back. You could just take a breeze break, go outside under the tree, just get some breeze, take a short walk to the park, get some breeze. It could be a coffee break where you just take a break and have a cup of coffee, some water break, have some water and just zoom out and think of nothing but maybe being at the beach. Just give yourself, your brain time to rest. And then you can come back to it. These again will increase that memory capacity. Snack. So, as I was saying, food like fish, walnut, dark chocolate, green tea, these are some that some researchers have argued that can really increase the brain functioning and boost your memory capacity. Sugary food really will boost it for a while, but it usually is short and you can slump back really quickly. So your green tea, coffee, and rest and exercise and so on. Then you want to plan the day before your exam as well, making sure that you have everything. You've done your best. Do what you can do. So put that information on paper. Remember, if you are calm and you're able to really just put what you can put on paper, then you have a 50% chance at least to make it. But if you panic and you get scared and you freeze and you don't it, then you have spent so much time preparing, have reduced your possibility of passing, not induce fear, right? So let fear, anxiety stop you putting that on paper. So take deep breaths, believe in yourself. After you've prepared and everything, this was before the exam, right? You're looking at things to do before the exam. So when you get into that examination room, do not just write in immediately. So what you want to do is look at the types of questions, even before the exam. Look at the type of questions that usually come in the exam, the content that will be covered by the exam, the structure that will be required, so that you can then, start preparing for that. All right. This is really important. What chapter do you need to read? Searching as much information as possible, keeping your notes organized, your maps, your mind maps, flow charts, just bring things together so that as you revise for your exams, everything is, close to you. Then what you want to do is to also know what kind of exam are you going into. Is it multiple choice? Is it essays? Because again, will guide your reading, and you'll be able to really know how to go about reading, how to go about prepping. If you know what exam that you'll be doing, if it's an essay, multiple choice, and so on. And you always remember to boost your productivity by using the Pomodoro technique, right? Is trying to get short breaks every 25 minutes per the Pomodoro technique. Look after yourself, guys. I always say, if you love yourself, it's difficult for someone else to love you. So the first love is self-love. Once you love yourself, others can love you. Once you love yourself, you take care of yourself, then you're able to take care of others. Okay? So what is then is think about ways to take care of yourself. If you're watching that favorite movie once a week, to as an incentive, do that. Having that one chocolate or things a bit hectic, do that. If it's exercise, go to the gym or for a swim or going hiking, if that really puts you in a good mood, do that. If it's listening to music, do that. It's important. If you have noticed, and if anybody can agree with me with a thumbs up, is it possible for you really understand or study when you're angry? When you're angry, are you able to focus? Some people will focus more when they're angry, right? It gives them kind of a drive. But when things are not working, is it easy to really understand to study? Have you share that with me? I remember once having an argument with some peers about this. How do you feel? Are you able to study when angry? Thumbs up. Understand better, and are you able to follow up better if you're happy? No thumbs up doesn't mean you're not able to study. You're angry and you have to be okay. Who understands better when they have neutral feeling, not when they're too happy or too sad? Thumbs up.
Well,
Now,
for me, no. I need to be in a very calm situation. Calm, yeah. I need to be very calm in order for me to be able to study well. So if my emotions are quite high, I am not able to focus. I focus on those emotions.
Okay, so be it happiness or anger, if they're just too high, you're not able to focus.
Well, if I'm too happy, then definitely I can. But if the emotion is more on the negative side, then I'm not able to function properly.
All right. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. So basically, there's a theory that says that when you're happy, your brain produces what we call endorphins, which really helps your memory or your brain to produce more dendrites, more neurons. You're able to retain more information when you are happy. But again, some people get that drive, from being angry to say, I can do this. So generally or mostly, nothing in this world is really 100%. When you're in a good mood and when you're happy, you're able to really learn better, right? I, for once, when I'm angry, it's easy to know when I cook because somehow the salt, as I always say, always gets better. So I break a plate or truly I don't do it intentionally. Sometimes it's a sign for me to recognize that something is wrong, when I taste the food and there's too much salt and I'm like, okay, what is bothering me? So things like that, you need to know the state, your emotional state, because if you're not in a good space, and you're preparing for exams, it's really not good for you. So when we talk about self-care, you need to think about your emotional state in preparing for that exam. You need to find ways and things that will make you happy. You need to be around people that will make you happy, right? Stay away from negativity. We always say, cut that hand off that is making you unhappy, at least for the exams. Perhaps you could cope with it later, but it's important that you care for yourself, care for you. Surround yourself with much love, love yourself, be confident, do the things that will make you happy, just to keep that emotional mind. If you need therapy, counseling, do so, right? And it is not a bad thing, or don't get into the stereotype about that, but it's really just a normal healing process, okay? So do what it takes for you to really be in a good space. And the day before the exam, remember, at least, those 8 hours of sleep, you need to maximize that. Think about the venue that you'll be writing the exams. Is it online? Is it at UNISA? Is it at the library? Which class is it? Have you organized transport? Do you have all the materials you need? When are you going to get there? You need to think about everything that will happen or will need to be prepared for that exam. Okay. So, it's normal for you to sweat a little bit, to feel a bit of anxiety, and sometimes that little adrenaline helps you, to do your best, but try not to get anxious. Now we've prepared for the exams. Now when you are in the exam room itself, what should you do? Now this is extremely important, because you don't want to prepare for the exams, you don't want to do all of these just for you to get into the exam and then fail. So to maximize the way you write that exam, what are the things that you need to do? Number one, listen to any instructions that your lecturer will say carefully. Those instructions, sometimes they're trick instructions. So there's a particular instruction that the lecturer will give that if you don't listen to, you might either not make it or make it partly, right? So you want to listen carefully. Don't be in a hurry to put down those answers on a paper. Don't be in a hurry. You need to be patient. Listen to those instructions. Then what you want to do is to read through that exam first. So once you have the paper in front of you, read through the entire test or exam, check out how long it will take, check out every part, what is necessary to complete that test or exam. Sometimes you're required to ask questions to your teacher before you start. If maybe there's anything that you don't understand, you can ask your lecturer, and then it's important that you focus on addressing questions individually. So you want to finish one question before moving to the next question. What you also want to do is you want to try to relax, right? And remember what we spoke about when we were looking at, I don't remember which workshop that was, and anyone can remind me, but we're looking at, I think it was multiple choice, when we're doing multiple choice. When we're doing multiple choice, we really spoke about before your exams, before you start writing, check out the mark allocation, look at all the questions, start with the easiest questions. This also applies for all forms of exams. You want to start with the easy questions with more mark allocation, then move to the difficult ones with more mark allocation, and so on. So the knowledge you have about the question should guide which question you start with first. Of course, except you don't have a choice, you have to keep going one question before the next. Maybe if it's an online test where you can only answer the next question after finishing the previous one. Except so, go through all of the question paper, start with the easiest with more mark allocation because you want to maximize your exam. Then, of course, relax. Remember, you've done your best at this point. And then once you finish, very important, always give yourself some time, even if it's just 5 minutes rest. Once you've had that 5 minutes rest, and then you can then review, just go through it again, ensuring you answered the question correctly. If you miss something, what you can review, and so on. And you can do the same for short questions that you will find in exams. First of all, deconstruct the question. So you want to deconstruct the question first, just as you would do with multiple choice and essay questions. Then you want to rephrase the question in your own words. Think about the structure before you even start writing. Always give examples and evidence to your short questions. Think about the language. Think about the mark allocation. If it's a short question for 4 marks, you will not write as much as you will write for a 6 marks question. So mark allocation should always guide you in your exams and tests, also guiding you as to how much time or dedication you should give to a specific question. And hopefully all of this will really guide your writing practices, from preparing for your assignments and exams to actually writing your assignments and exams. We have come to the end of our best reading and writing practices, and we've looked at the SQ4R that requires us to survey by scanning through introductions, conclusions, headings, asking questions about our work, responding or reading through notes and highlighting, underlining, responding orally, recording using our hands, reviewing. Then we've looked at best ways to prepare for our writing and doing research, understanding the question, and actually free writing before reviewing. And we've looked at best ways to write exams, which are really just getting enough sleep, exercising, and making sure when we're in that exam room, we actually get to read the instructions, understand the mark allocation, the time allocated, and planning appropriate. Any questions? Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. Do we have any questions? Tomorrow, we're going to be looking at unpacking questions and study strategies. So we'll dive in more detail about what we did today. So if there's anything you did not understand today, tomorrow we'll provide room for further understanding. Any questions? And remember, you always have the one-on-one sessions as well. So you can book for your one-on-one sessions to meet with me, on one-on-one, so we can discuss a specific challenge, academic writing challenge or assignment challenge, as well as any other questions you may have. And you can also request for, just looking at my email, you can also request for the presentation. I think I forgot to send the presentation to Anati. So you can also request for the presentation, should you want today's presentation. Just email me, introduce yourself, and please just always tell me which presentation it is. So not just saying the one we did yesterday, but Queen, may I please have the grammar and referencing this? So just name the presentation so that I'm able to just attach that and send it to you. Okay, if there's no questions, thank you so much for taking your afternoon to improve on your writing skills, and just keep going, keep believing in yourself, and remember self-care. And I will see you tomorrow. Have a rest, have some food, and some exercise. Bye, everyone.